Hello, I'm Rachel from Douentza Garden in Ireland and you are very welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to cover a few things. First and foremost, I'm going to plant my Persian silk tree. Now this poor tree has been in a pot for 11 years, so it's high time that it went in the ground. And while we're also in the neighbourhood, I'm going to run through the planting that I've been doing on the back edge of my garden. So this is the area that goes up against the farmer's field beyond, and there's a native hedge in there between me and him. An area that has recently been cleared a bit, and the result is that I want to get some nice hedging in there. So I'm going to be doing that with you today. Oh, and one more thing, I'm going to show you my empty pot tidy. We all have loads and loads of plastic pots knocking around because you never know when you're going to need them. And they're not something you want to put in your greenhouse because they're very messy. So I have devised a pot tidy that does that job. Okay, let's get on with the video. If you are new to the channel, you should know that I garden in Southern Ireland in what roughly equates to as hardiness zone 9. We don't use that system here in Ireland, but take it as a rough guide in terms of what I can get through the winter. And it's kind of relevant today because I'm going to plant out a tender tree, or a borderline tender tree, which is the Persian silk tree. Now this is a fabulous, wonderful, gorgeous tree with kind of very light and airy leaves, and I have the purple variety, so the leaves are purple, and when those puff balls of pink flowers come out, they just look fantastic against the dark purple of the leaves. Summer Chocolate, I think, is the name of this variety. Well, I bought this tree because I absolutely loved it. I thought it was the most exotic thing I had ever seen. I had seen the green-leaved varieties growing in France and they looked so happy and healthy. And then when I found out about the purple variety, I just had to get my hands on one. However, it is borderline hardy here in Ireland, and the result of that was that I grew this tree in a pot for 11 years. Now, I did pot it on several times with the result that I had a great big pot with this tree in it. And there comes a point in time when you realise you're just being cruel, that this tree really needs to go into the ground for it to ever reach any kind of potential. The trunk has always remained like kind of wimpy. I think it should be more sturdy, and I feel if I get this plant into the ground in a good position where it has the best chance of survival, then it is going to do great things. Now the Persian silk tree, Albizia Summer Chocolate, is hardy to -5 degrees centigrade. That's 23 Fahrenheit. And that is generally the lowest we would get here in a winter in Ireland, the coldest temperature. However, occasionally we do get a bit cooler than that. So that's why it's a borderline tree. To compensate for that, I've chosen a sheltered spot to plant the tree in. And it's sheltered because it's backed by some native hawthorn trees. Now the downside of this is that the Albizia tree, the Persian silk tree, it wants full sun. And it doesn't have full sun in the position I'm putting it in. And that's always like the trade-off when you plant out something that's kind of borderline. It wants a bit more sunshine, but you know that the most important thing is the protection. So you give it less sunshine and more protection. I've chosen to plant my Albizia tree in spring. It's May now and it's going in the ground. We'll go over that in a bit more detail in a moment, the timing. So the first thing we need to do is to decant the plant. Thankfully it came easily out of its very big pot, presenting me with a very large root ball with surprisingly fine roots. I decided to give them a bit of a ruffle up anyway, just to make sure that they don't continue growing in a circle when I put them in the ground. And then the next thing is to dig a hole. Now today I have Matisse from France helping me in the garden, and a wonderful help he is too, doing a lot of heavy work. So thank you very much, Matisse. You're going to see him throughout this video doing, well, a lot of the planting. Matisse is digging a hole that's large enough to comfortably accommodate the root ball of my tree. He's leaving space underneath and around the root ball so that we can backfill that with a mixture of earth and compost. It's easy to say dig a hole, but if you've ever done a job like this, you'll know that the vast majority of the time spent is in the actual digging. Everything else takes a fraction of a moment compared to the hard work of digging. And I've gone for a square hole on this occasion. Some research has shown that when you plant a tree that's been in a pot for a while into the ground and you put it into a circular hole, it encourages the roots to just continue in a circular motion, and the plant will never get going into the surrounding earth beyond. The research shows that if you actually dig a square hole, for some reason the roots then head for the corners and will head out into the surrounding earth beyond. I'm not quite sure what the reason is for it, but this is what we're doing today. We're going to go with the research. The next step is to mix up some potting mix with the earth that has been excavated from the hole. If you backfill your hole with just plain potting mix, what's going to happen is that the tree will think, well, this is great, this is wonderful, this is the best stuff, and it will never venture out and go into the earth beyond, into your soil beyond. So you want to make a mixture of potting mix and earth, a kind of halfway house, giving the roots a chance to get used gradually to the earth beyond and encouraging them to venture out a bit more. We're also adding in some fish blood and bone and giving it a good mix. The next step is to place some of that mixture at the base of the hole and to measure to make sure that the height is correct for the root ball. My Albizia tree is quite heavy, so it takes the two of us to manoeuvre it into the hole. And then nothing remains but to just check that it's straight enough and to start backfilling with the rest of the mix. So circling back to the question of why I'm planting now in spring rather than autumn, both being valid times to plant trees. And some of you will have seen the recent video by the Middle-Sized Garden, Alexandra from the Middle-Sized Garden, where she talks to a number of plant vendors and they give advice. And one of the pieces of advice was that the best time to plant trees is actually autumn rather than spring. And I respect that. These are vendors who know what they're talking about. However, in the case of planting a tree that's borderline hardy, that's tender, my opinion is that it's best to do it in spring. If you plant it in spring, at least it has the summer and the autumn to get going and to establish itself, whereas something that is just that little bit unsuitable for your climate, if you plant that in autumn, it has no time at all to really get used to the environment and the climate before winter hits. And I just think that doing it in spring is really the best thing to do, providing and always providing that you keep it well watered all through the growing season. So everything's going well with the planting of this tree. It's being backfilled nicely and all of the earth is in place. We stamped down around it to firm it well in position before watering. But then, oh my goodness, do you see the problem? Suddenly I saw the problem. What was wrong with me? I didn't see the problem right up until that moment. Now, always when you plant any plant, you plant it with its best side forward, the most attractive side, and we all have a a more attractive profile on one side than on the other, and trees and plants are no different. So you plant it with the attractive bit out, which is what I got Matisse to do here. However, now I see the problem, because this tree is low, it's brittle, it reaches out, and it reaches out over the lawn. What's going to happen here? I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen here. Every time my husband comes down on the ride-on lawnmower, he's going to bash this tree. Every time my son goes past with the hand mower, the push mower to do the edges, he's going to bash the tree, and this tree is not going to stand one single bit of a chance. It's going to end up broken. What was I thinking? I have no idea. But you know what? It's going to have to come up and be rotated. So here we have poor Matisse loosening the tree again with a spade, because we have to take it up. We have to plant it the right way round. Well, we have to plant it the wrong way round so that the overhang is in on the plastic behind and safe from damage by lawnmowers. Everyone makes mistakes now and again, but the best thing was to fix it, to take the tree up, to turn it, to plant it again, rather than just pretending that it wasn't going to be an issue. So it's now a day later, and here's my tree. There she is. Okay, it does look a bit lopsided. It's leaning in there towards the hedge, looks a bit strange, but you know what? Trees do rectify themselves, and I think if this gets going and establishes well, then it should kind of bush out on the other side, because this is the side where the light is, so it will tend to move that way as well. And as for it being in the shade, well, I think that more affects flowering rather than anything else, so I mightn't get a lot of flowers in the beginning. But if this tree gets going and gets up there through the hawthorn trees, then it will reach the light and it will be well established, and when it's at that height, then it should flower really well. But moving on now, I did plant another camellia there. You will have seen this camellia rainbow in my greenhouse for a long time. It's a sasanqua, and I bit the bullet and planted that out as well this year. Actually did that one myself, not Matisse. And over here you'll see this, and you'll be wondering what this is. And this, my dear friends, is my pot tidy. So we all have a lot of empty pots that we need to keep. For years I've had a pot tidy which has been composed of wooden pallets, and these wooden pallets you usually get free from various places, but the last couple of years the quality of the wooden pallets that I have been able to get has been pretty dire, with the result that my pot tidy would disintegrate about twice a year, so it would have to be redone. And basically I got fed up with that, because you know it's quite a bit of work. So I spoke to my husband and I got him to create, or to build, this thing here from wood. And you can see that there are two sides where it is very dense and there are no holes, and these are the sides that are going to be facing towards where people generally are, and they will block the view of the pots. You won't be able to see the pots. The side that faces in towards the hedge can be a little bit more transparent, so it has a few beams going across, and the fourth side then is the one where I'll access the pots, and that's why we just have one beam across there just to stabilize the whole thing. So it was a lot heavier when it was finished than the previous pot tidies I had, with the result that it was quite heavy to get up here and put in position. But I think it looks absolutely brilliant now. I think maybe just a little bit of paint is going to show it off really, really well. So I wonder, what do you do with your empty pots? Where do you store them? Do you have an ingenious solution that I'd love to hear about? Do let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so the final thing I want to talk about in this video is the rest of this hedge going up here, where the view is across the field into the farmer's field, and I have started planting shrubs there. And one of the shrubs that's planted here is the fantastic Kalmia. This is a gorgeous shrub, very akin to rhododendrons in terms of when it flowers and in terms of how it needs to be cared for. So if you can grow rhododendrons, you can grow Kalmia, and they have very distinctive, small, dainty flowers, masses of them in spring. This is my second Kalmia, and this time I've gone with darker colours, and I think they look fantastic. It's a vigorous bush that likes full sun, which, I mean, rhododendrons like partial shade really mostly, but this one tolerates full sun, and it's evergreen, and I think it's going to look great in this position. And here is my Magnolia tree, and I showed this to you in the last video. This is Magnolia Black Tulip, and it's a beautiful, beautiful magnolia with the darkest coloured flowers of any magnolia, and they are scented and lovely cup-shaped flowers, which I can't wait to see in spring. And yeah, I was kind of mixing and matching, trying to decide what to plant where, but I'm happy with that position for the magnolia tree. But if autumn is the best time for planting normal hardy trees in the ground, then why did I plant my magnolia now? Because it certainly is very precious to me, and I certainly don't want to lose it. And the reason is that I'm just horrible at keeping things in pots over the summer. These are things that can't stay in the greenhouse, where the greenhouse is too hot for them, so they need to find a sheltered, shady position elsewhere in the garden. And I am such a devil for forgetting to water those kind of things. This, I guess, is the reason why I stopped keeping things like peonies, those hardy orchids. I would forget to water them during the summer. As well for the auriculas, those gorgeous little primroses, stop keeping them for exactly the same reason, and a number of other things. So I certainly did not want to forget to water my Magnolia Black Tulip in the summer and lose it. I thought it best to plant it out now and keep it well watered. I'm going to have to keep this hedge well watered this summer, and it's going to do great. I always think it's a bit funny, isn't it? A magnolia that's called tulip. Magnolia Black Tulip. It just doesn't seem right, but that's its name. What can I do? The hedge has been cut back a good bit, and the strip of plastic that you see down there is just going to help me maintain the brambles that are in the hedge and stop them coming in too deeply. If you plant a hedge up against brambles, then it's just a nightmare, because like there's no space to maintain things properly. So that's the plan anyway. Okay, and just before I finish, here is a quick look of my beech hedging, the 49-foot beech hedging that you saw me plant out last autumn. Gorgeous copper and green beech hedge, alternate copper and green beech plants, which are just leafing up nicely now. And these were got from Van der Velde, which is a nursery in Aughrim, County Wicklow, close to me. They have a great range in bare root plants and trees in spring and autumn, and it would certainly be my first port of call if ever I wanted to get bare root. So I'm very pleased with how the hedge looks, and I hope it will go on to do great things. Certainly block the compost heaps behind. That's the main purpose of it. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If it's raised any questions, then feel free to put those questions down below. I'll happily answer them if I can. And I hope that you'll check back soon to see more gardening videos. Thanks for watching. Bye.